Hi, and welcome to the latest edition of the Fat Doctor podcast. This is episode 40. I took a couple of weeks off, and what a time to be alive. What a time to take a break. Some shit went down. You're all aware of what happened. The majority of American voters decided to re-elect Donald J. Trump, convicted felon, known sex offender, and quite hideous human being, into power. Not just Donald Trump, but in the entire fascist party into government. And this didn't come as a surprise to many of us, because misogynoir and also fascism. People are getting desperate. I have noticed that throughout history, as people begin to lose power, begin to lose their grasp of power and control, they get pretty desperate. They start closing their borders and kicking people out and trying to control their every action, because that's really the only way to maintain that power. So it looks like, capitalism, fascism's last ditch attempt at holding on to and maintaining power. Well, that was fun. And I think it's left a lot of us, feeling rather tender. Those of us who've been paying attention probably have been feeling tender for quite some time. And this simply confirmed what we already knew, which is that, fucking hell, the world's on fire. And if you are fat, and if you hold any other marginalised identity, especially if you're trans, queer, black, disabled, an immigrant, working class, many of those things really, you're in for a not so pleasant few years ahead. And that doesn't matter whether you live in the United States of America or not, because let's face it, whatever happens there is going to spread to the rest of the world. This kind of like the racism and the fat phobia and the transphobia and the homophobia and everything is going to become even more visible than it already is, because it's never gone away. It's always been there. It's just as bad as it's always been. But in some respects, it's been under the surface, and we've sort of maybe been able to ignore it, especially if you're in a position of privilege and it's not something you have to deal with. Oh, racism, that's not a real thing anymore, is it? I mean, we've moved past that. Of course, if you're a black person, then you fully aware that we've never moved past that. And I think if you're a fat person, you've been treated like shit. It was acceptable to treat fat people like shit, even when it wasn't acceptable to treat queer people like shit, publicly, at least. I've certainly experienced more fat phobia than I have homophobia in the last 10, 15 years. Let's see how that works out in the next few years. We'll see. But yeah, if you're trans, if you're black, if you're disabled, if you're fat, then life hasn't been great anyway. So maybe it's going to become worse. Maybe this is the beginning of something new and better. I mean, not that Trump's going to make it better, but like the situation, the world situation could potentially get better. But I'm here today, not with a message of hope, because good God, I'm not a miracle worker, but really just to sort of share the thoughts that I've been having over the last couple of weeks. I'm processing them almost in real life, in real time, live in front of a podcast audience. There was, this is grief, isn't it? Really, let's face it. We're grieving a world that, we've always, a dream that we were sold, I think, is what we're grieving. We're grieving a dream that we were sold that was never really, it was never real. It was fake. It was false. This idea, and sometimes it's called the American Dream, but actually I think it's a dream that we've all been sold from the very beginning. This idea that if you work hard enough and if you try hard and you hope for the best and you have semi-good intentions that life will work out great. That's the dream that we were sold. And, to some extent it was the house with the white picket fence. We don't have white picket fences in the UK so much, so maybe it's a slightly different dream. But, own stuff. We were told that if you work hard and then you earn money, you could own stuff. Well, we've soon realised that's a pipe dream, especially for younger people. Own stuff. What? Own property? Unlikely. And you can't even own even music. Once upon a time you went and you bought an album and then you owned it and it was your album. Now it's just rented to you on Spotify, right? Like that's basically what happens. So we were promised ownership. It never happened. We were promised, improved health, and we're living longer. In fact, we're living longer than we ever have before. But when I say we, I mean like on average. But then there are certain groups of people that aren't living longer and are actually are worse off. And the disparities in health are worse now than they have been. So yeah, on the one hand, we're living longer, but on the other hand, that's a dream that so few can afford, literally and metaphorically. What else were we sold in this dream? We were lied to. We were told that our vote matters, and like theoretically it does. Kind of like theoretically, eating less and exercising more helps you to lose weight. Theoretically, sure, but in real life, our vote doesn't really matter when all the people we're voting for are shitheads. I was having this conversation with my son in the election because he's just about old enough to vote, not in this last election, but the next election he will be in. He was saying, like, how do you pick? Like, how do you decide? And I was like, mate, you pick the best of the worst bunch. Like, they're all awful. Then none of them are going to help you. None of them are going to fix things for you. Nobody gives a shit about you. Your government will not be working for you. That's just a lie you've been sold. So you actually pick ideally the weakest one, the one that that you in your sort of in your activism and in your fight for social justice will most likely be able to win against, to beat, because that's the reality, isn't it? We just have to keep fighting for our rights. And so I was explaining to him that, like, they're all terrible. There's no good party out there. There's no good politician. Just like there's not really a good doctor out there. Maybe they are. Maybe there are a few, sure, like individuals. But collectively, the system is fucked up. And so, we were sold the lie that our vote mattered and that we could collectively decide our future, our destiny, by voting in a free and democratic election. Whereas actually, I believe we can collectively choose our future. I believe we can have autonomy and agency, but I don't think that necessarily happens by voting. I'm not saying you shouldn't vote, by the way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I don't think it does what they say it will do. I think it's just part of society, kind of like paying taxes. I'm not saying you shouldn't pay taxes, dude. Like, pay your taxes, because if you don't, then suffer the consequences of the law. But, speaking of law, in fact, we were also sold a lie that there was such a thing as fair and impartial justice, that the legal system, the justice system, if you just follow the rule of law, that it will work out okay. Bullshit. Do you know how many people have been executed around the world, especially in the United States of America, who are completely and utterly innocent? Fuck the rule of law. I mean, that's a lie. There's no justice in the justice system. I mean, there is if you're privileged, but not if you're not. We've learned school to prison pipelines, and we've learned about, mass incarceration. We've learned about how racism massively impacts the legal system, and fat phobia. If you haven't already read it, you need to read Deshaun Harrison's book, because in this book there is an entire chapter dedicated to fat phobia within the legal system, and it's through the lens of a black person, because all those three things merge together. Belly of the Beast is the name of the book, and if you haven't read it, you have to read that. Just read that chapter and just go, oh, fuck, no way, that's not true. Yes, it is. So we've been sold a lie, folks. We've been sold a lie about working hard and owning stuff. We've been sold a lie about health and healthcare and well-being. We've been sold a lie about our vote mattering, like, and being able to determine our future through free and fair democratic elections. We've been sold a lie about the quote unquote justice system, and we've been sold a lie about wellness. And many of us are waking up to this lie, all of these lies. Many of us are waking up, in the morning, and maybe you woke up on the morning of Wednesday, the 6th of November. Maybe you've been awake for a long time now and gone, oh yeah, well, this is all a lot of fucking shit, isn't it? This is just nonsense. None of this is true. None of this is real. We've been sold a lie. So then the question becomes, what are we going to do about it? Because it's the reality we live in. What are we going to do about it? And that's what I've been processing. And so I guess when you wake up and you realize you've been sold a lie, you're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to grieve for the life that you were promised that never happened. I lost my mother, now, over 10 years ago. No, over 11 years ago. And we didn't have a perfect relationship by any stretch of the imagination. We had a very troubled relationship, especially as when I was a child. And let's be honest, she was not a great mum. I don't think she should have become a mum. I think she didn't even really want to be a mum. I think she was persuaded into becoming a mum, and she caused a lot of damage. And we worked through a lot of that before she passed away. I've certainly worked through way more of it after she passed away. But one of the things that I learned was about grieving. Like, I lost my mother. I was quite young. I was 33 and I just had a baby, literally like a couple of months, but I was breastfeeding and nursing her in her final days. And so I learned a lot about grief then. I learned about grief and I grieved my mother. And then some of you may know my father is not a good person, and in my opinion. And a few years after my mum died, my dad decided that he wanted nothing more to do with me and cut contact with me. And I've never heard from him again. He's alive, but I never heard from him again. And then as I started to process that in therapy, I realised that I'd not really had a great relationship with my father. And that's mostly to do with the fact that he's a narcissist and an extremely abusive man, especially mentally and emotionally. So my father didn't die, but I also grieved my father. And this time I didn't grieve the person himself, the man himself. I grieved the relationship I should have had. The father that was promised to me that wasn't real. I honestly had been duped into believing that I had a great dad. For a really long time, I believed that I was very lucky and so fortunate to have this wonderful father. That was the message that I was taught over and over again since I was a child. So when I realised all of that's a lie, there was some grief. And grief started with denial, as it often does. And there was anger, there was bargaining, and there was all sorts of things. And I think that I am able to relate that feeling of grieving this kind of relationship that never was to the situation right now that we find ourselves in, with fascism very much on the rise, becoming an actual threat to our safety and well-being. I mean, it has been on the rise for a really long time, folks, but now fascism is in power, and soon a fascist party will take control of the richest country in the world, or I don't even know if it's the richest anymore, but certainly the most powerful country in the world when it comes to, armed forces and nuclear weapons, and geopolitical power. So a fascist government, very similar to the fascist governments that we saw back in the 1930s, will soon be in control of the most powerful country in the world. And we have to reckon with that, because that's some messed up shit. But actually, the grieving part is important, and we're allowed. I think it's important to have our collective grief, but at some point in time, we are going to have to come to a place of acceptance, because this is the situation we find ourselves in, right? And it doesn't mean we've lost. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that history is going to repeat itself either. We could, as a society, learn from history. I know, shocking, but it is possible, to learn from history. We could, as a society, collectively come together, learn from history, and go, yeah, we're not doing that again. Like what happened last time. Like we're like that didn't work out well for anyone. So let's not do that again. Let's do something different. I genuinely believe that collectively, we the people, to borrow a phrase, we the people have an immense amount of power. And it has nothing to do with elections. And, like boycotting, divesting, all of these things definitely play a role. There's no question there. I'm not a politician, so what do I know? I don't understand politics. But I'm sure divesting. I'm sure where you spend your money is going to make a difference to people. Boycotting things will make a difference. Protest makes a difference. All of those things, all great. But I'm talking about something a little bit more kind of a little deeper. That if we collectively decide that we are or we aren't going to do something, then we have power. There is power in numbers. There is magic in numbers too. And we collectively can come together and just say, no, we're not doing that. Or yeah, we're doing this instead. We do have the power. And for the longest time, we chose not to use this power because we were sold a dream, a lie, a dream that was a lie. Like, why would I want to take a risk when I could potentially work hard, earn money, and own some shit? Why would I want to take a risk when I could potentially have a long and healthy life? Why would I want to take a risk if, all was well in the world? I just had to vote every 4 years or 5 years, and then my politicians would do whatever it takes to look out for my best interest, both nationally and internationally. Why would I risk anything if I knew that when push came to shove, I had the protection of the law, the rule of law and justice on my side? Why would I risk anything for that? So let's just pursue that dream instead. But if we choose to believe, or we recognize finally that dream is a load of shit and none of it is true, maybe we could realize and we could potentially harness the power of a group, of a collective, turning around and saying, no, I'm not doing that. And this is me not talking about a specific action here. This is me simply saying we start by saying, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't believe in any of this. I don't believe in the lie you've sold me, and I'm not doing that anymore. And I don't know what we do after that. I don't know how that, I'm not sure. I can't tell you the rest of the story. This is just the point in the story that we're at. This is what I've been processing right now. This is what I've been thinking over the last 2 weeks. Fuck that. I'm not going into 2025 and just lying down on my back, belly up, going, yeah, well, there's nothing I can do about it. This is the life we live. This is the world we live in. This is this is the hand I've been dealt. There you go. I knew it would come to me eventually. I'm just going to lie back and just accept what's happening. I'm not doing that in 2025, folks. That's not for me. I'm going to join hands and forces, and I am going to connect with a collective, a group of people with similar values and beliefs to me. I'm gonna do some magic. That's what I'm gonna do. Magic is what's needed here. We need to stop thinking about, the logic here and start trusting in the magic, the energy within. Now, you can call that energy God. You can call that energy, the universe, Mother Nature. I don't care, whatever you want to call that energy. There is energy. There is power within each and every one of us. Real power, tremendous power. Not Donald Trump power. Donald Trump doesn't have any power. This is the interesting thing about Trump, right? And people like him, is that he is desperate for power, and he has managed to achieve power in one respect, because he's becoming the president again. So that's ultimate power, one would argue. But also, This man is so desperate for power. He is so loud. He is so angry. He is so desperate that there's no way he feels powerful. If it's the opposite, he doesn't have it. He feels powerless. He is insecure and he is doing whatever it takes to hold on to that like sense of power. But he doesn't have power. Like logically, I get it. Like he will be able to create laws and to do things, and like, you know, I understand about Supreme Courts and judges and Senate hearings and you know, I've learned about the American political system. Obviously my education started with the West Wing and has developed very much since then. But like I get it. Like on the one hand, superficially, the man has a lot of power, but people like Trump, they're all talk. They're like my gorgeous dog Mia. God, I love Mia. She's wonderful. We rescued her a few years ago. She had been brought over from Romania and she was a street dog. And she'd been brought over from Romania and adopted and then given up. So she was brought into a home and then given up, and then she was fostered and she went into lots of different foster homes, and eventually she ended up with us. I think we were her 4th or 5th home. Now, Mia is a street dog. She is the descendant of street dogs. Dogs in Romania have been living on the street for decades now because of political reasons. And so, you know, she's made up of God knows what, and she has real protective instincts. She's definitely some kind of shepherd dog mix. So she has very protective instincts. Her job is to protect the home and the family. But she's also, and this is, you know, partly genetics and partly epigenetics and partly trauma and all of this stuff. She is a very vulnerable, very reactive dog. Man, does she bark. And when she barks, she barks from her belly. Her bark is loud and threatening. It's scary. Like, I should just record it and play it. Like, you know how some dogs are a bit yappy and some dogs are loud? Mia growls and barks. And when you hear her growl, like, you feel scared. And she's got a lot of mouth. The minute a person walks into her house, she is fleeing in fear, and like she yaps, she barks, but she ain't gonna do anything. If I just say, Mia, sick 'em, like that's not gonna work. She hides behind my legs because, you know, she wants to be powerful and she uses her voice to be powerful, but she's not actually powerful at all. She's a wuss. My other dog Milo is a lurcher he's basically a cat but in a dog's body, and he's just completely useless. He just befriends strangers. So I don't have a guard dog. I need to invest in one. But anyway, not the point. I digress. What was I talking about? Yes, people who have a desperate desire to have power, to hold on to power. I watched a really good video on Instagram. One of the very few people that I follow, commentators that I follow, and he was talking about, like, if you look at the Roman Empire, if you looked at Rome back in the height of the Roman Empire, and you looked around, it was glorious. There were all these, like, you know, these buildings, these monuments that had been erected. There was, you know, it was a sight to behold. It was a real show of power and dominance. But Rome wasn't closed off. Rome was very much open. You could go visit Rome wherever strangers were allowed to come in. Why? Because the Roman Empire did not fear anyone else. The Roman Empire was in charge. The same for the British Empire, the French Empire, any empire, you know, any colonialist empire. Like, come, welcome. You can come and look at us. You can gaze and behold the spectacle that is the center of our empire, because we're bigger than you and stronger than you and more powerful than you. The minute, and this commentator made the point, the minute we start trying to control our borders, we start like shutting ourselves in and kicking everyone out, that's a sign that we no longer have that power and that control. We're no longer as strong as we used to be. Like, the empire is falling, because otherwise we'd let people in. We wouldn't be scared because we'd know we still had the power. And we've been watching this happen for a long time. Empires are falling. And this is a good thing. But what happens once the empire falls? What do we replace it with? Feels like it's just going to be replaced by another empire. But what happens when we, the people collectively come together, and instead of investing into industry, investing our time and energy and money, etc., into industry and into weapons, into defense, into any of these things, what if we the people collectively come together and invest in ourselves, in the magic, in the power that is within us? What if we all collectively come together and share that power and allow that magic to do its thing? That's where I'm at. And so 2025 will be an interesting year, but before 2025 happens, we still have to get through the rest of 2024, and it's on, right? Like, I am recording this. This is being released on the 20th of November. The 28th, I believe. No, the 27th is Thanksgiving. The 28th is Black Friday. Is that right? Or is it 28th and 29th? 28th and 29th. 29th is Black Friday. And then it's like a rundown to Christmas. And then it's New Year's Eve. And then it's 2025. And then on the 25th of January, whatever, new president. Like, it's coming. It's coming. And also, this is a really, really, really busy time of year anyway. Like 2023, 2022, like, it was busy. It's always busy. I find the holidays very stressful. I don't know about you. I find them stressful. There is part of the holidays that I really look forward to. There's it's the dream that I'm being sold, right? The magic of the holidays, and like the lights and maybe the snow if you live in the northern hemisphere, or even if there's not snow, for the majority of us there isn't snow, but there's the illusion of snow, and there's like the pictures of snow and the movies that are made about snow, and it's cocoa and cozy sweaters and Christmas parties, which not really my thing, but and everyone comes together and there's food. Oh my god, there's so much food. Already in the supermarket, I'm like, this is like my favorite time of the year, food wise. The cheese, the quality of cheese, and you see the rounds of cheese, like it's the only time of the year I feel comfortable walking into a supermarket and buying a whole cheese. It looks like it's Christmas. That's what we do. We eat cheese. I eat cheese all the time, but I just buy slices of cheese. Christmas time, I buy the whole thing. And there's all these sweet goods, and I'm a big lover of marzipan. My mum used to make these marzipan balls, and she used to soak prunes in cognac, and she'd soak them for ages, and then she'd like mix them with marzipan. Oh gosh, oh my gosh, that's unlocked a memory for me. Saliva. Ooh, delicious. But like anything, I'm for all the food. So there are parts of Christmas, and I say Christmas holidays. I've not been religious for a long time. Don't celebrate Christmas. Don't celebrate Hanukkah either, because like I said, I'm not religious. But a nod to all the holidays that occur during this time. But it's the shutting down. I don't know if it happens around the world, but certainly in the UK, between kind of Christmas and New Year, like nothing's open. Shops are open, but no one's at work. Everyone's at home. It feels very lazy. And actually, more importantly, and the most important part of the holidays for me, is that we're coming to the winter solstice, right? And that is a very important time for us. For me, certainly, spiritually and energetically. We're supposed to bed down at this time of the year. In case you hadn't noticed, it is the shortest time of the year in the northern hemisphere. Again, if you live in the southern hemisphere, this is like 6 months too early or too late, whichever way you look at it. But if you live in the northern hemisphere, this is the time where we're supposed to be like, sleeping and eating and doing not much else. So I kind of look forward to that part of the holiday. But then there's all the other stuff. And the other stuff is hard. And it's easier for me now because I don't do much and I don't have to see family, because none of my family are talking to me. And well, that's not all of my family. Like there are one or two members, but most of them aren't talking to me. Either that or they're dead. And I have stopped like worrying about going on a diet come January 1st. So I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about how much weight I gain over Christmas, because I don't weigh myself and I don't give a fuck. And, I'm now deliberately eating all the cheese at Christmas because, time for all the cheese. They're so good though. Like you can get like these really lovely cheese. You can't get them at any time of the year, any other time of the year. Even like where I shop in Aldi, like they're like, yeah, we've got the good stuff. Yeah, nice. They've got an entire Christmas aisle, just food, everywhere. Anyway, I've got to stop talking about food. So yeah, there's the stress of family, yeah, and food policing. Ugh. That's when you combine family and food together. Never a good combination. Fat phobia, I mean, is rife at this time of the year. And then we know that we're moving into January, which is like New Year, New You, and like, that's when diet season takes over. In fact, 26th of December, we'll expect all the diet ads. So that's not fun. What else? Also, just if you're neurodivergent, and this is the first year I'm really fully embracing my autistic identity and realizing that there's a reason why I find this time of the year super tiring and stressful, because the lights are a lot and the noise is a lot and the crowds are a lot, and going out in public, thank God I don't have to do that anymore, but being like, small doses for me now, just small doses. I used to like do Christmassy stuff, like let's go out and do Christmassy stuff. That's fine. I'm not doing that anymore because that's just exhausting. So yeah, there's a lot, especially if you're neurodivergent, especially if you're fat. And then, like I said, this year, what a year. I had this plan, and I had it a few months ago, that I was going to do, like last year, I was thinking to myself, God, I wish I was doing the holidays with people, like intentionally as a collective group, doing the holidays with people, fat people who like cared about the issues that I talk about on my podcast, because there's something about doing something in a group, in a community, that makes life so much better and easier and more fun. And I remember this was my first diabetic Christmas, or it was probably my second diabetic Christmas, but I was really struggling with the sweet stuff. Because, it's not about weight anymore for me, it's about blood sugars, and can I eat that? And like, that's carbs. I mean, Christmas is all about carbs, apart from the cheese, but it's a lot about carbs. And so it was like, I wanted all the sweet things, but I was really stressing about my blood sugars, and I was having all this guilt and all this stuff. And I was like, oh man, next year, I'm going to do this with people. And so that was the plan. The plan was that I was going to create a group for basically fat diabetics who wanted support over the holidays, and I had this whole idea planned out, and it was very exciting, and I had like a name, and then things went south politically. Not, to be honest, I don't even know if we had woken up on Wednesday the 6th of November and Harris and Waltz had won. Like, I don't know if things would be that much better. I mean, there'd still be people dying in Palestine and in Lebanon and in parts of Africa, and I'm not sure life would have been that much better. Maybe somewhat better, maybe somewhat less frightening, let's put it that way. But either way, I realised pretty quickly, it's not just diabetics that are going to need support over this holiday. It's all of us. And so I came up with Fat, Festive and Fierce. I love me some alliteration, folks. You have to understand it nurtures a part of me, okay? It nurtures a part of me, and fat, festive, and like it became a whole thing. If you check out the webpage, there's fat, festive, and food policed, fat, festive, and fighting the pressure, fat, festive, and fully present, fat, festive, and flourishing. Like I really went to town with the alliteration, and I'm proud of it. I'm not even ashamed. I'm not even embarrassed. That's gold. You're very welcome to all of you. You're welcome. I bring such great tidings of alliteration at this time in our lives. But so Fat, Festive and Fierce is a program. It's a 1 month program. You're going to get little pep talks from me, exclusive ones. Every week there will be one available for those of you who are anxiously anticipating your Thanksgiving, which could be a little bit tense. Those of you in America, Thanksgiving coming up, and there might be family members who might say stuff that you don't want them to say, and yeah, all of that stuff. So there'll be a pep talk ready to go to get you started, and then all through the season there'll be pep talks, power-ups, if you will. There'll be huddles as well, like live community like events so that everyone can join and we can support one another. So there'll be live calls, there'll be pep talks, there'll be lots of tools and resources and just support for people who just want to be able to not just get through the holidays. So I was going to call it Surviving the Holidays. Yeah, that was part of that wasn't that in the name, but Surviving the Holidays was the theme, the strapline, the byline, the tagline, whatever it's called. And then I was like, well, yeah, surviving's good, but what about if we weren't just surviving? Because the thing is, January is looking like it's going to be tense. And then February and March and April and May, and like basically all of 2025, and whether it's politically or whether it's just because you know that Mars is retrograding and that's interesting, and that it's making an opposition with Pluto, because Pluto's in Aquarius and Mars Leo, and then retrograding back into Cancer, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting, folks. And so what's the point I'm making? So we have to have some. We don't want to just survive the holidays. What I want to try to say is we don't want to be scraping through on our hands and knees come January 1st, right? Or January 6th or January whatever. Like, that is the last thing we need. We need to be like restored, renewed, reinvigorated. We need to have as much energy and strength as we possibly can to face what lies ahead. So it's not about surviving the holidays, it's about thriving. It's about thriving, not surviving. It's about flourishing, not shrinking. I'm just coming up with these, by the way. Isn't that amazing? So, yeah, I'm so excited about Fat, Festive and Fierce. I can't say it. Fat, Festive and Fierce. I'm so excited about it. And I'd really like you to join the programme. And if you're listening on any time before Friday the 22nd, then you can book in advance and get the early bird pricing. You can, doors open on the 22nd, so then from then onwards you've got a week before the doors close, so you don't want to miss out. It's not going to be a really long launch. It's a short one because it's a short program, and fucking selling shit is just the last thing I want to do. So come if you want to come, don't come if you don't want to come, is how I'm feeling right now. Like, I'm not going to try and persuade you to come. If you want to come, it's there. If you don't, I'll see you at the next podcast. But yeah, if you book before the 22nd, then you get the early bird price. And so for those of you who have listened and gone, oh, I really want to do that, I suggest you book now to enjoy the discount. What else is there to say? Well, I'm back. I will be with you throughout the holidays. I will keep podcasting. As I said, the podcasts you get in Fat, Festive and Fierce are separate to this. But I'll keep podcasting. I'm here if you need to consult. I have got a couple of spaces in December if you want to consult prior to the new year. I've got a little bit of time in my diary, especially at the beginning of December, and you're looking for a consultation. And also, I've started my program No Way now. So we've had the first month. It's almost... Is it finished? No, it's not finished yet. There's more time. But it's great because I've almost finished writing chapter 1 of my book. And so we'll start chapter 2 and I'll tell you all about it. If you have joined No Way, if you've watched the free... The first week was free. So if you haven't joined No Way already, head to my website, click on No Way. fatdoctor.co.uk/no-way, spelled WEIGH, and you can watch the first live thing, the first live on replay. You can watch it anytime. It's free. And I've added to it now, so there's lots of stuff there about I've talked about the National Weight Control Registry. I have posted the first part of the first chapter, and I'll be posting the second part of the first chapter soon. And what else is going on in my life? And this month's masterclass next month's, December's masterclass, is on sleep apnea. I've done some work on my website. So if there's like stuff, I don't know, you're like, oh, I just got diagnosed with fatty liver disease. I wonder what Asha has to say about that. Go to my website. You can actually find the resources now all in one place. I've done some work. I've tried to make it as obvious as possible. I don't know how well I've done, but you can check it out and see for yourself. All right, I've rambled enough. See you next week. And yeah, take care of yourself in the meantime. And come join me in Fat, Festive and Fierce.